Hi everyone, this is Mindy for Honeybee Stamps, and in today's video I'm going to be creating a background with my gel plate and then using that with an embossing folder. Now if you haven't used a gel plate before, they are really fun to create backgrounds. I like to keep mine in this storage tin. I believe mine is maybe like 5 by 7 or 6 by 8. It's a fairly decent size one. Now, before I get started, I am going to clean it because I was using this a lot during the day and I'm not sure what's left on here. So I just put on some hand sanitizer and I'm wiping that off with my paper towel. I don't want to go over it too many times with a paper towel because it will leave that residue or that, kind of paper towel-y tidbits on my background, and I don't want that. Whenever I'm going to be using my gel plate, I cut up a lot of paper because you can really get carried away. So I have some Hammermill cardstock that I just cut in half, so it's 5.5 by 8.5. And now I'm taking these two colors of ink from Gina K Designs. I dabbed the pink onto the top portion and I dabbed the blue onto the bottom portion. There are two different rollers that I like to use. This is a really large one. I'm not sure of the size, but I love how big it is. And when I'm brayering across that gel plate, I slightly shift it so that I'm picking up some of that blue to put into the pink and vice versa. Then I brayer it off onto a scratch sheet of cardstock, and then I place another piece of cardstock over that gel plate, and I'm going to go over it really well with my hand to make sure I'm picking up all of the ink. So when I peel this up, I have this beautifully blended background. You can really just have a ton of fun with colors. Now I had applied some more ink, repeated that step, and this is another background that I got out of it. And I like that subtle transition right in the center. So I went ahead, I cleaned my gel plate again, and this time I'm only going to use the blue. Now this is Turquoise Sea from Gina K Designs. I'm going to clean my brayer off really well on that scratch paper. I'm starting at the bottom, which is where I placed that blue, and I'm going to brayer it up towards the top. So it's going to have kind of this ombre effect where it's darker on the bottom and fades off into light towards the top. Now you may see that stencil up in the top corner. I had thought about using it and I changed my mind because I really just liked these beautifully blended backgrounds. They came out so super smooth. Also keep your scratch paper that you're brayering off onto because those can create amazing backgrounds as well. Now I decided to use this blue ombre background where it just kind of fades off into white, and I'm going to use this with the Spring Medley embossing folder. And I am just using the sandwich that is recommended on my base plate of the Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine, which is the base plate, my embossing folder, and then that adapter plate. And this creates stunning, stunning detail. Now, something else I like to do with my embossing folders is add ink over the top. So what's going to happen is the ink is going to catch those embossed areas, the parts that are raised up on the cardstock. And when I do this, I personally prefer to use a flat blending brush. Sometimes the curved blending brushes can get into the background, and I don't want the background to get that extra ink. I just want the raised parts. So I'm just going in with that same color I used, which is the Turquoise Sea. I picked it up with the blending brush and just very gently gliding over those embossed areas onto my cardstock. So you can see how that really highlights those flowers. Something else that I thought would be really fun is spraying this with a shimmer spray. So this is the Iridescent shimmer spray from Hero Arts. Make sure to shake it up really, really well. And I'm going to spray this, kind of dragging my hand across the front of the cardstock so that it sprays across and doesn't settle into one area. Then I'm going to just take my heat tool and dry that so I can finish my card. Something really cool with embossing folders is you get beautiful designs on both sides of the cardstock. Now I can take it over and trim this panel down, and I usually start by just trimming off the not embossed portions of the cardstock, and later on I do trim this down to about 4 by 5.25. Here I'm bringing out the Thinking of You Big Time die just to kind of get an idea if this is going to fit across the front of my card, which it is. So I'm going to stamp that sentiment, Thinking of You, onto some white cardstock using the Intense Black ink from Honeybee Stamps. Now, I hadn't used this particular sentiment before, so I am going to just make sure my paper is aligned in that bottom corner, and I'm going to stamp that sentiment again. Now, I did have somebody in mind when I was creating this card. Somebody I know is not feeling very well, and I wanted to just send them a card to let them know that I'm thinking of them. So after I stamp this, I'm going to die cut that out using the coordinating die. And to attach my embossed background, this can be kind of tricky because we have so many raised areas. I really wanted to use full-size double-sided adhesive sheets, but I couldn't find them. So I just used some double-sided tape and I really burnished that down onto the cardstock and then added that to a white panel that matches that size. So the 4 by 5 1/4. Then I added some thin foam tape to the back of that, and I'm adding this to a white card front that is measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I have just a little bit of lift to my card and then also just a really nice thin white border. When I was die cutting the sentiment, I die cut it multiple times from white cardstock, and I'm going to layer that together with my Honeybee Stamps liquid glue. And then I added that to the back so I can attach the sentiment to the front. Now this kind of gets tricky too because we have so many raised areas. So once I have the glue on there, I'm going to set something heavy and I let it sit for probably a good 10 minutes to make sure it really adhered down to that embossed panel. And then I'm going to embellish it with some Happy Hearts gems. There's kind of these clear iridescent ones on there that I put around my sentiment. So this is a really simple card, but there's a lot of interest to that background with the embossed areas, that shine, and also that subtle ink blending that we have on there. And if you've never tried a gel plate before, I highly recommend it. It is very addictive to sit and make a ton of backgrounds out of it. I hope you enjoyed today's video and it has inspired you. The supplies for this card will be listed down below in the video description. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I hope to see you soon.